Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear a man and a woman talking about daycare for their children. You have 30 seconds to read questions 1 to 5.
Hi, Sanjeet. How are you?
Pretty well, Angela. Tom won't be here for another 10 minutes. Shall we have coffee while we're waiting?
Why not? How's your family?
Not too bad, except my son Arav had a cold last week and then my wife Navreet caught it.
Oh, dear. My daughter Zoe had a temperature this morning, and I wasn't sure whether to send her to daycare. But my husband's away in Toronto, and I can't take any more time off myself.
I guess kids get all kinds of things at daycare.
I don't know. They also build up resistance there. By the way, I'm sending out invitations for Zoe's birthday party. How do you spell Arav?
AARAV.
Thanks. I've never heard the name before. What does it mean?
Peaceful or wise? It's popular in India because the film stars Twinkle Khanna and Akshay Kumar called their son Arav. What does Zoe mean?
It's the Greek form of Eve, which was my mother's name. It means life.
Nice. Navreet and I have put Arav's name down at a daycare center in East Lindsey, but we've heard a few odd things about it, so we're looking elsewhere. What's Zoe's daycare like?
Pretty good. My son went there for 2 years, and he survived.
If you don't mind my asking, what does it cost?
It varies. If you provide things yourself, like diapers and snacks, it's reasonable, around $30 a day. But if the center provides everything, it starts to add up and can go as high as $50.
I see.
Also, there are quite a few hidden costs.
Such as?
Well, the parents are kind of competitive. If a child has a birthday, Mom or Dad is expected to bring a snack for the whole room. The daycare's divided into rooms by age. Right now, Zoe's in Penguins. Sometimes I think parents spend a lot of time and money on those birthday snacks.
Once Navreet's back at work, she may well be too busy.
Absolutely. Also, if you set a pickup time but get there 15 minutes late, the center fines you $5 and $5 more for every quarter hour thereafter.
That's a bit steep, especially if you were just caught in traffic.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions 6 to 10.
So, tell me about the center in East Lindsey.
At first, I was impressed. It's spotless throughout, and the staff seems caring and responsible. I like the fact there's a decent amount of space, especially outdoors. However, I'm worried that the children aren't explicitly taught anything. All they do is play. Sure, Arav's only 1, but in an 8-hour day, there's a lot he can learn.
At Zoe's daycare, there is some structure to the week and some tuition. In penguins, Monday is alphabet day and Wednesday is numbers. In tigers, Monday's computer day and Wednesday's music.
Computer day?
Yeah. Parents have to provide tablets for their children when they turn 2. Another of the hidden costs I was telling you about.
Right.
But there's one good thing at Zoe's daycare. You're not charged if your child's off sick for a day. And as long as you give notice, you can take your child out for holidays, which, again, you don't pay for. Many centers will only allow a 1-month fee-free break in a year.
What's the hygiene like?
Good enough. The kids do get things in their hair, which is a bit embarrassing. But supermarkets stock shampoo, and parents are contacted as soon as there's an outbreak.
Would you say the center kept parents well informed?
Yes, I would. There you go. A reminder about Zoe's birthday. Her snack can't contain peanuts because a boy in penguins has an allergy.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear a woman being interviewed on the radio about living in a very small house. Before you listen, you have 30 seconds to read questions 11 to 15.
Welcome to today's show, coming to you from the home of Charlotte Williams. Good morning, Charlotte.
Morning, Simon.
Thanks for letting us into your home, which I believe has been inundated with guests recently.
Yes, I held my birthday party here.
Surely that was a squeeze, given your whole house is 8 square meters, about the size of my kitchen.
The party was in the garden.
I understand there's been an upsurge in interest in the tiny house movement.
That's right. Even Oprah has interviewed some of its devotees. We're no longer the weirdos at the end of the street.
But you were for some time, weren't you?
Yes, I was. I'm sorry to say I've had unpleasant text messages, rubbish strewn across my lawn, and rats put into my water tanks.
Goodness.
But you know, when I was a kid, people used to smoke in doctors' waiting rooms and on airplanes. Once on a flight to LA, I practically choked. My mother said crossly, "Settle down, it's only smoke." Now, of course, no one smokes on airplanes, and my mother is the first person to tell anyone off who lights up in a surgery.
So your mother's one of your fans?
I wouldn't say that exactly. Anyway, she lives in France. In my opinion, in the developed world, we all consume too much. I mean, in 1945, the average house in this city for a 5 to 7 person family was 111 square meters. 2 generations later, it's twice that size, while the family has only 3.5 to 4 people.
I note you say in the developed world. Perhaps an immigrant might still think you're weird. After all, isn't the American dream to think big?
Yes, one criticism leveled at me is that my lifestyle is anti-American. It's true that while working in Mozambique and Vietnam, I was inspired by my neighbors who used few resources.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions 16 to 20.
In Mozambique, people use far less water and electricity than here. That's when I started to live without a fridge or a shower, like the locals. I washed in a basin of water, which I still do.
I don't think I could live without a shower.
In Vietnam, many of my neighbors didn't have a kitchen, but cooked and ate outside. This meant there was life in the streets. Here, my kitchen consists of 2 elements and that basin. And as you know, my party was outside. Also, in my part of Ho Chi Minh City, children generally slept in 1 bedroom. Indeed, children do share more when they're in small spaces, and they're less likely to acquire all the junky toys that fill up many American homes.
But you live alone, Charlotte, and the climate here is rather different.
Sure, my son's grown up and my partner lives in Chicago, although he visits often. The climate is cold here, but my heating bill is low because this is a small space. I do still need quilts and winter clothes, which I store under my bed. However, I own 2 coats, while my sister's got 10.
If you don't mind my saying so, Charlotte, isn't 8 square meters rather cramped? Haven't you had to give up all kinds of things?
Firstly, I have a great view of trees from my bed, so I feel part of nature, of the great expanse of nature. When I lived in a larger house, all I could see were other large houses. Honestly, I haven't given up anything. Every single item I now own has to be functional and beautiful. I don't keep anything out of guilt because it was a present or I paid a lot for it. I had 4,000 possessions before moving here. Now, I've got 400.
What other savings have you made?
I didn't pay much for this property, so I'm mortgage-free, which means I can work part-time. Without a doubt, the greatest saving I've made is of time. I clean my house for 1 hour a week. In the past, I was a slave to chores and maintenance. Most people think I live in a tiny house out of poverty or fanaticism, when really it's through choice. I'm just getting on with life.
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You will hear a woman who is going to be interviewed for a scholarship talking to a man who previously received one. Before you listen, you have 30 seconds to read questions 21 to 27.
Hi, Vibol. Thanks for coming.
No problem, Sophie. I hope I can help. When's the interview?
On Thursday,
Which course do you want to do?
a Master's in Development Studies.
Whereabouts?
In Australia, Melbourne, actually.
Well, Melbourne's a great place. I visited in my semester break.
But you studied in Adelaide, didn't you?
Yeah,
Why Adelaide?
I heard before I applied for the scholarship that most applicants want to go to Sydney or Melbourne. So by choosing Adelaide, I thought I'd have a better chance.
Do you think I should go to Adelaide? Or not do development studies?
I think the key is to choose a course you're really interested in, no matter where it is.
Why's that?
Because the workload is heavy. My master's was probably the most difficult thing I've done in my whole life.
I see. Anyway, I bet the interview panel asks the same questions every year. What did they ask you?
Firstly, about why I wanted to go to Australia.
What did you say?
I told them I'd been there already, and I liked it.
What else did the panel ask?
About my undergraduate degree, about my job, about how a master's would improve my performance and the performance of my organization.
Where are you working now?
Oh, and they asked about my family, whether I'd take my wife with me.
Well, I'm single and planning to stay that way. As to the courses helping me at work, you know I quit my regular job working in the university library.
Yeah, I heard that. What are you doing now?
I'm a volunteer at a rehabilitation center.
However do you survive financially?
I teach English at night and I live cheaply.
Good for you. You could say an MA would improve your prospects of finding permanent work.
I wonder what the interview panel will think about my undergraduate degree. It's in Russian and history. I studied Russian so I could get a scholarship to Russia for a master's degree, but I only lasted 6 months in Europe.
If I were you, I wouldn't mention you already have an incomplete master's. I'd focus on the work you're doing now. Use phrases like grassroots activism and capacity building. The panel will love that.
Oh? I do worry about my background. My family comes from a village on the coast. I seem to recall that most people who were awarded scholarships in the last 3 years came from big cities and were socially successful.
In the past, that was true. Indeed, all the interviews were held here in the capital. But this year, they're also taking place in the provinces, so scholarships will go to a more diverse group of people. I don't think you should beg for assistance, Sophie. But you don't need to hide your background either. Be proud of it.
I am proud of it.
After all, it means you can empathize with the people you volunteer for. However, when you come back with a master's degree, you'll be able to mix with more influential people. I mean politically influential. I'd emphasize that if I were you.
I'm not sure the selectors will want to know about my politics, but they may want to see that I'm passionate about development.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have 30 seconds to read questions 28 to 30.
By the way, Vibol, in Adelaide, what did you do your master's in?
Taxation law.
And what are you doing now?
I set up a restaurant.
A restaurant? With a master's in taxation law?
Taxation is a nightmare here. To be honest, Sophie, I just want an easy life.
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
You will hear a lecture on the disposal of electronic or e-waste to read questions 31 to 40.
Normally in this class, we design and evaluate apps, and we'll get back to that tomorrow. This afternoon, I'd like to raise your awareness about the issue of electronic waste disposal. As some of you know, I've got twin daughters who turn 13 on Tuesday. Like many children their age, they're totally in love with electronic devices. My husband gave his old smartphone to one of them, and I was forced to give my newish phone to the other. That was 2 years ago. Now they're both demanding brand new smartphones of their own. As an anxious parent, I would have given in to this demand had I not just read an article about e-waste. Let me add that I read part of it on my tablet at home, the rest on my desktop computer at work, and afterwards I counted how many electronic items my family and I have at home, at school, and at work. And we've got 24. Yup, 24. An average American family, no doubt. Anyway, I finally agreed to birthday phones for my girls on condition that my husband and I shed some of our own devices as responsibly as we could. In the past, we've just put them out in the garbage as though they were banana peel or broken plates. This time, I decided to take 2 laptops and my girls' phones to a recycler accredited by the Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. I found an interactive map on the EPA website showing companies that sign up to recycling schemes called e-stewards and responsible recycling practices. It's easy enough to drop stuff off at these companies and receive cash in return. I do regret to say that in the U.S., the cash return is tiny because there are currently insufficient volumes of electronic trash for these companies to turn into treasure. Since I'd like to encourage this recycling practice among my students and colleagues, there's a web link on my Facebook page. Frankly, I don't think Americans recycle enough. Yet, even with these companies that have popped up recently, there's still a huge problem. I mean, the collection of the e-waste is fine, but who knows how it's processed? The EPA believes that only 20% is actually recycled, and the rest is incinerated or put in landfill. The auditing of this process has yet to begin. The majority of local e-waste, around 8 million metric tons a year, is sent off abroad, mostly to Asia or Africa, where health and safety regulations scarcely exist. One reason the U.S. still banishes most of its e-waste is because it refused to sign the 1989 Basel Convention that controls the export of hazardous waste from rich countries to poorer ones. Needless to say, it wasn't the only rich country to spurn the convention. Neither Canada nor Japan consented to a 1995 amendment banning such trade completely. However, European signatories to the Basel Convention may not, in reality, behave any better. Inspections at ports in Germany and the Netherlands have proven that e-waste, like much other cargo, is deliberately mislabeled so it passes unnoticed through customs. So what's inside e-waste, and who deals with most of it? Well, the list of chemicals is very long indeed. An average smartphone contains around 60 different chemical elements. Heavy metals, like lead and mercury, exist alongside arsenic, beryllium, cadmium, and polyvinyl chloride, all toxic to humans in quite small amounts. When electronics are incinerated, unless at extremely high temperatures, many more toxins are produced, including halogenated dioxins and furans, which seriously contaminate the food chain. India and China are 2 major processors of e-waste. At present, the city of Guiyu in Guangdong Province in China is considered the world's e-waste capital. American, Japanese, and European containers loaded with e-waste arrive in Guiyu hourly. But these days, there's also considerable waste from the rest of China itself. The EPA estimates that by 2020, 100 million metric tons of e-waste will be produced globally each year, and of that, only an infinitesimal amount will see its way back into more electronic products. So, designing apps for this digital age is important. As an extra assignment, I'd like those of you who are interested to create one that lets users responsibly end the lives of their many electronic devices.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.